A warm welcome to our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. I am Bosin Amofaye here at the Arise Studios in Lagos. Markets across Frontier Africa are expected to be fully reopened tomorrow, Wednesday, after the long holiday weekend. But we've got a few openings covered for you later on the show. But let's get the show started. The initial economic blowout of Russia's military operations in Ukraine was on the energy front, mainly oil and gas exports from the Eastern Front to mainland Europe. But as President Putin's war enters its second month, the world realized that a food crisis is looming as well. Russia and Ukraine account for nearly a third of the global wheat exports, and Moscow's attack on its neighbor has crippled supply chains. And you can add delays and disruptions in shipping or maritime into the cocktail of headwinds that lie ahead. So where does all of this leave Nigeria on the fronts of agriculture, agro-allied, agro-exports, and foreign trade in general? This is a two-part conversation with my guest, John Isemede, an international trade specialist and a former Director General of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industries, Mines and Agriculture, or NASIMA. A good evening to you, sir. Thanks for making it this public holiday.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you. We appreciate it.
And good evening, viewers at home and across the globe.
Thank you. I'm sure you are watching very keenly the 2 months war in the Ukraine, the geopolitics, and you're asking yourself what the key opportunities are for Nigeria in the area of agriculture and agro-allied. What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much. Before I go into that, first of all, let us educate Nigerians where Russia is located. So also where Ukraine. Because if we go into the opportunities and all that, a lot of people may not know. This is not history, this is geography. We are now talking of the global affairs. We have signed all the agreements on air does not mean that the economy is home and dry. If you look at Russia, Russia is the biggest country in the world, occupy almost 10%. So it's the biggest country in the world with a population of 145 million. And from here to Russia, if you are talking of Moscow, it's about 6,000 kilometers. And to the end of Russia, with border with Japan, you are talking of about 12,000 kilometers by air. But by sea, you know, where the sea is located, around the Arctic, around the Kara Sea and all that. So if you now look at the population, the GDP of Russia, vis-a-vis, the GDP of Russia is about 4 trillion. The population is 145 million. And it's about 18 times the size of Nigeria. So contrast that with Ukraine, that break away from that bloc in 1990-1991. And Ukraine is just about 67% of the size of Nigeria. It's about 5 hours by flight. It's equally a littoral country with a port in Odessa very close to Turkey. So now we are looking at Ukraine and Russia and the effect in our economy. There is nothing on earth that is produced in Russia or Ukraine that is not produced in Nigeria. The only difference is that there's value addition, and there's no value addition in what we are doing here. Now we are talking about the war in Ukraine is affecting Nigeria. First, you look at oil. The only thing we are not getting from Ukraine or from Russia today is cement, because we have been able to look at backward integration and we have invested heavily. The next question is that, is it because of Ukraine and Russia aggression that Ajakuta is not working? That the Nigerian paper mill is not working? That the refineries are not working? So we cannot live on handouts. So the situation we have found ourselves is that we are not prepared. And for us now to take opportunity, which you have asked, first and foremost, when you talk of opportunities, you look at, let us restrict ourselves mainly to agri and agro.
That's what I'm looking at.
So a country,
look at competitiveness here now, because I guess that's what I took from the earlier part of your comment about the difference between Nigeria and Ukraine and maybe even Russia. Competitiveness.
They produce sugar.
Yes.
So also with Ukraine, they produce coal. beets, vegetables, and all that. And we have one or two advantages over there. Nigeria can produce palm oil. So also we can produce cassava, we can produce yam.
We do.
That's all right. These people we are looking up to have been able to draw out their own value chain. Because when you talk of agriculture, you have the primary sector, you have the secondary, you have the tertiary sector. And to run agriculture is not by intervention, it's all by value chain and leakages. If we are adding value, so what we are discussing today could have been a discussion of a century back when we were staying in our loose groupings. Because in the First World War, there was no effect across the globe because people were in their villages. It was after the Second World War, you were talking of the Bretton Woods, you are talking of this. That was how the multinationals came into Africa. China did not colonize 1 inch of Africa, Russia as well. But they have been able to build their home and be able to engage and take on the world. Now, when you talk of opportunities, what have we invested in agriculture? If Ajakuta is not working, what do we hope we have in agriculture? If our port is not configured, what of the cost of doing business in Nigeria? If people can bring rice, and you are talking of wheat and all that, from 50,000 kilometers away, and they can compete, it shows that our economy is still very, very shallow. When you are talking of wheat, let me give you an example of Tanzania. Tanganyika and Tanzania combined in 1964 under President Nyerere to form the present-day from Tanganyika and Zanzibar to form Tanzania. The first set of people that moved into that country because of the socialist policy were the Chinese. But the level of technology in China, vis-a-vis the language barrier and all that, they could not get the mileage. The Canadians came, got to Tanzania. What they were out for was to change the taste of the people. And when you now want to change the taste of the people, Walimu now came out. And he said the rest somewhere in the Bible that man shall not live by bread alone. But here in Tanzania, we don't live by bread at all. We live by ugali and chapati. We have to look at our foreign exchange and the bank of this thing. So the opportunity is that the basis to compete is not just there.
The basis of competitiveness, the neglect of investments in agriculture, in agro-allied. Do you think we can reposition ourselves? What needs to be done? How quickly? And who should do that?
Yes, it's as easy as ABCD.
It's never been easy.
It was easy.
Tell me.
In the First Republic, it was easy.
What makes it easy? What made it easy in the First Republic?
In the First Republic, the regions were very powerful. They were competing among themselves. Even when it was after 1963 that the Malaysians came to Benin. We were not importing, rather we were exporting. Because by 1900, Nigeria was contributing 50% of the total palm oil requirement. When we got independence in 1960, it became 27.
Indonesia has just said there should be no further export of their palm oil.
Yes, because of what is happening in Russia and China.
Can we meet up? Can we raise production of palm oil?
Even in 15 years, we cannot. Because by 1960, we were producing 27%. When the Malaysians came here, they came for the seedling, so also we gave them exports in Benin. Some of them are still alive. Today, Nigeria is producing less than 2%, and we are consuming 4%. The CPN governor came out and said he cannot form from M. Nigeria is a country, because there is nowhere in the world where I have not seen maize, where we cannot even attend to the poultry farmers. So it's a challenge. When you are talking of restructuring, we should restructure our villages, local government and all that, and give people targets. We will be able. If we are now waiting for the center before we can refine petroleum product. And let me give you another example. We have 3 universities of agriculture. Who are they reporting to? They are reporting to Ministry of Education. That is not the case we saw in South Korea, in China. I've been to Vietnam, I've been to Malaysia, I've been to Brazil. And you have technical colleges. Is the technical college in Benin has any link with University of Benin, or even with farmers? We are #1 producer of beans. What value are we adding?
I want to believe that Nigeria needs to have strategic economic and trade relations with other global powers. Do you think we need that?
We signed the WTO.
No, everybody signed documents.
All right.
But what
We signed documents.
What is someone you can call at the middle of the night? That's the kind of what I'm talking about.
All right.
Strategic.
You have to take care of your own people before you think of others. Like the case of Indonesia you have taken off.
Oh, here is Russia and Ukraine. Very strategic. Now Europe is shaking because Russia says we're going to switch off the gas.
But they are now turning to Nigeria and other places.
But where are we strategic?
But the issue is that even if they turn here, it's always master-servant relationship. We don't even make contributions.
Yeah, but why do we change that? That's what I'm looking. That's looking. If you look at the West Africa, for example, West Africa, the French folks are all tied to the apron of Paris, of France. So who's Nigeria tied to his apron? Among the global powers?
Nigeria in the past, we were British colony.
Yes.
All right. By October will be 62 years. Out of that 62 years, the military ruled for 28 years. We are not ready to compare what the achievement of the military and the civilian. The truth of the matter is that certain structures were put in place we inherited from the British. Today, look at the railway system. The new one is not connected to the old one. Look at the educational system. Look at the way the country is being run. The local government is talking of this. The state is talking of this and all that. Where is the central coordination? Because what we hear is more or less siren of aid. So also, we believe that experts and all that will come from the Western world. This is a country we inherited as at the time we got independent. There was no university. The University of Ibadan was University College London. And by 1962, we had our own full-fledged university. By 1963, the Prime Minister at that time installed the first Nigerian Vice Chancellor, which is Professor Dike. So if we now go to the United Nations, we go to the World Trade, we go to other countries, you see what Nigerians are doing, but there are no structures at all for us to work together as a team.
That's exactly what my point is, because you were at a meeting recently of the French folks talking to Nigeria businesses. What are your takeaways from there? They are pursuing their interests.
They were not talking to business people because I did not see any representative from the foreign affairs.
So what did you want?
I did not see
the foreign affairs. Foreign affairs is not the business.
No, that is the ministry looking after the other. They were there in line with Vienna Convention of 1963, that an ambassador is the marketing manager of a country.
Is that what we have in Nigeria?
Okay. If we want to go into...
No, we're going into that after the break, because we need to find the nexus between foreign affairs and our economic policies. If there is no handshake like this, thank you. We'll be right back, everyone. The conversation is not over yet. Welcome back to the show. International trade expert John Isemede has been chatting with me on Nigeria's agro-industrial and export competitiveness with new windows of opportunities now created by the Russia's war in Eastern Europe. Let's expand our conversation. Thank you so much. And we just had a handshake before the break. Yeah. So that's the handshake I'm asking about between our foreign relations department or the Ministry of Foreign Relations, and you said an ambassador is a country's #1 marketing officer. So bring that to me, where we are in terms of all the agreements with the WTO and others that we've signed, and we haven't seen any real result on the table. Where is the missing link? Is it there's no cooperation and collaboration here?
There is no cooperation, there's no communication, and there's no proper coordination. In 2003, we were in Maputo, Mozambique. And it was agreed that 12% of our budget should be used to run agriculture. And for the past 20 years, let's go back to history and see whether we have actually put between 2 and 4%. And we want to feed 210 million Nigerians. And in international, after domestic trade, you look at the low-hanging fruit, which is your surrounding countries. Benin Republic at any fora is a brother to Nigeria. Despite the fact they got independence before they called the UN. Niger, the same thing. Chad, Cameroon. All right, if you now look at that centric market, before you talk the sub-regional and regional market, you are talking of over 300 million mouths to feed. Is it the 2% of our budget that a country that we are using 96% to service debt that will be able to...
Do you think Nigerian leaders really realize the numbers that you've just put out?
In terms of, what do you call it? In terms of business, you don't actually work with the population of your country. A Beninwan can come here, sleep overnight, drink water, and use the airport. But because our border is still closed, people don't move freely and all that. That's why we are not reaping anything. Let me give you an example. When we were to close the border, I came up and said there are repercussions. There are agreements under the WTO on trade facilitation. There are agreements under ECOWAS, there's one under the AU, the Bamako Convention. And Nigeria cannot claim to be ignorant when we now sign all these agreements. And under the WTO, under the ICC, where you have the Incoterm, there's what we call DAF. Closing border against our neighbor was a big setback. What is the exchange rate today? So also, why the food crisis? There's no crime. Even a lot of Nigerians have invested in Ghana, in other places, to bring food. They are Nigerians who are producing vegetables in this country. So when you now talk of foreign affairs and all that, we got it wrong the first day Nigeria got independence, on the 1st of October 1960. When the Union Jack was lowered, the first thing the Prime Minister did that time was to go and meet the Queen of England. Nigerian troops were sent to the Congo Basin, now you call Congo DRC.
Yes.
That was the time of Antonio Kasabubu and Patrice Lumumba. We were there on the 4th of October, fighting other people, while America and all that, they will tie whatever they have to trade.
So
Nigeria,
from that
for
point,
all what we have done in Liberia, in Syria,
for foreign policies,
because
with ECOMOG and the rest.
Our foreign policy is not tied to trade. We have a foreign policy.
Tied to economy.
We have a foreign policy. We have a foreign policy objective. We don't have a foreign policy strategy. If not, why should Nigerians today not be able to manage? How many Chinese companies registered here? Compared with, that is, even at the ECOWAS level. I work in Ghana for multinational organization, not for any individual. What is the problem between Nigeria and Ghana? So these are some of the things we revisit our foreign policy. We have signed more agreements than the developed world. We have attended trade fair, trade mission meetings more than the superpowers of this world. What of the result? In the sense that we look at the whole thing, after this agreement, government officials are those we see at the forefront, which was not the position where some of us were, Iman and Nasima, the late Chief Giwa. We will tell the government, we are the players. At the end of the day, when this agreement are signed, like the one we signed with Kenya some years back, at the DG of Nasima, I was not even aware. When I got to Nairobi, it was more or less an embarrassment. So the issue is that when you now sign this agreement, you take it to the National Assembly, because the constitution of this country is supreme, supersedes any other thing. In line with the section 12 of the constitution, this thing must be domesticated, and you cascade it down. Now we are talking of Africa Continental Free Trade. We don't know what have been put in the budget to advise Nigeria, to educate Nigeria in the area of, like what the BBC is doing for the multinational corporations and their subsidiaries across the globe. So these linkages, this cooperation, this communication, working together, MDAs without targets, how can we? So we will continue to import food. 2 years ago, I came up and said prices of gold will skyrocket. Because when I went to Cameroon, I discovered that, look at South Sudan. It's over 3,000 kilometers from the port of Douala. It is cheaper to move goods from port of Douala to Juba than to move goods from Apapa port to Agbara. If we now look at the air business, so here we cover that 35,000 for you to load an empty aircraft. What value is there? So compared with Ghana?
What you're telling me right now, what you're telling us right now is exactly, is that on part of your to-do list for Nigeria's next CEO next year?
The next CEO. Today we cannot talk about the next CEO. Because the cloud is not clear.
The cloud is...
No, in the sense that how many political parties do we have?
Well,
We don't have a candidate as such. We only have aspirants.
yes.
And those aspirants have to be decided by their political parties.
They are potential candidates.
They are potential,
potential candidates.
They are not potential candidates. Because when JAM give you admission, they give you professional admission, you go to the university and clear.
Yes.
And you have to defend that admission within 1 year before you can sit for, you can vote and be voted for.
If I give a pen and paper and I said, give me a list of to-do lists for Nigeria's next president.
No, I cannot do that because one, I don't belong to I don't belong to any political party, but I'm a player. I have a voter's card, which I can show you. Two.
Yes. So what do you think the economic policy should be? Based on
look at it.
Look at the food and fuel crisis.
We have run the parliamentary system.
Yes.
So also the way we run our presidential is that the way it's run in the US and all that. I've witnessed Ghana election for so many years. I've witnessed that of Benin Republic. The pendulum of power when it was switched between President Kerekou and Soglu, there was no tension in Benin Republic. Even during the election, you go out, things are put in the right perspective. But here, if I don't have 100 million or 200 million, that is to collect from a loan.
No, I'm not asking you to pay for this because I'm going to take it back.
I cannot tell you who is going to be president tomorrow or then, but the only thing I will tell you.
I'm not asking you to tell me who.
But the private sector.
Well, you said to-do lists.
All right, to do the list.
Yes.
First and foremost, the economy today is at the doldrum. The economy of a nation must be above all other things. Because with the economy, you pay taxes, so also you create jobs. You build capacity. That is the first thing. How do you keep a minister in office for 8 years? There's no challenge. We have seen the list of ministers in the First Republic, in the Second Republic, in the last administration. Today, very many of them occupy positions you and me were proud of. It was when Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala was campaigning that we closed our border. And we are talking of trade and integration. Today, how many countries can boast of our brother in Abidjan? Look at where he has moved the ADB and is telling the world what he has in his sleeve. First, agriculture. Two, industrial revolution. So also ICT and human capital development. The fourth industrial revolution, which is keeping. So if we have a leader who will sit like the vice chancellor of a university, once you are a vice chancellor, you forget about your religion. You forget about where you come from. You forget about your students. You sit at the vice chancellor of the university. Then at the end of the day, when you finish, you go back to your department, either as HOD or a lecturer. If run that system, then we now begin to have the office holder separating from the office. In the sense that today, the situation we have found ourselves is that who are those? Because the president is the president of the country, the minister is doing the work of Mr. President. We cannot run a system where you have ministers who have no target, who have no appraiser for us to see. Well, we will continue to borrow.
Okay, so would you like to see anything change in terms of agriculture, trade, agro-allied competitiveness?
Yes. Let me give you one example. There are going to be changes.
Thank you for returning my pen and paper.
One, in the First Republic, we had what we call the commodity boards.
I remember.
Yes?
Yes.
If Obafemi Awolowo was paying salary better than the Americans were coming to look for a job in Nigeria. The dollar was equivalent to 25 kobo. By 1980, the dollar was 50 kobo. Today, we don't know. Even if you introduce T20, T200, a country that cannot export $6 billion a year or $10, we are talking of 200. Although it's good to dream and to have projection. Two.
But what you do with a cheap currency is that you use it to industrialize.
Yes. For instance, like when Italy was the lira, the Japanese did it and all that. Yes. But they have a good productive base. When you now talk of competition and all that, it's the production processes, the value chain, the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream. Is there any connection? Then the second issue is talk of value addition. Which value are we adding? I traveled to Egypt. I went into a village when I saw the furniture company, because when I moved around Egypt, I did not even see trees. I discovered this wood is coming from us. You've been to Turkey, another area. That is value addition. When you talk of export, are we doing it? When you talk of trade, it's import and export. Yeah. Can we match import figure with export figure? Can we match the incentive on one side with the other side?
With the way things are, do you think things are going to get tough? Do you think this food crisis, this looming food crisis, will likely increase food prices this year?
It will be extremely tough. But one thing is that there's what we call backward integration and import substitution. If you talk of beans production, it's only 3 months. If you talk of maize, it's only 3 months. Nigeria can not fold their hand and be. We are not talking of palm oil now. Vegetable is 28 days. All this we can do as the low-hanging fruit. But if we now wait and say we are going to borrow...
You want the next CEO to do that? The next
president? And be able to give states. There's no reason why those states should not be giving palm produce.
As targets?
As target. There's no reason why Kaduna State should not be giving ginger.
Well, what would you want to give Kogi State? That's where I'm from.
Kogi State?
Yes.
I will give you two hours of why Ajakuta is this or that. If Ajakuta, I know your state very well.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, you do.
I know your state very well. We share boundaries.
Yes.
So if Kogi is giving solid minerals, even in your state, you have a technical school.
I'm not too sure. I didn't go to
So how do you now think that this thing will work? Because even those who are footballers, they start from the academy. When we were in the primary school in Benin, from Kaduna to Benin, every Thursday is handwork. I can carve.
Do you think we should set aside a day in the week for agriculture, farming in Nigeria? Maybe Wednesdays, maybe for schools?
No, it used to be Thursdays.
Yes.
But the type of schools we run these days, where a 3-story building is now a university. So how come? Because in Brazil, there are about 100 universities, agric universities. That is where you are getting your sugar from. Go to Thailand, go to this, it's more or less technical.
So you think the schools, the universities can actually become agro-allied industrial centers?
Yes, and begin to produce small implement. The big and the small, what of fertilizers and all that we can be produced here. So many things can be produced locally. But this cheap money at the center is what is making everybody to save. Because if that was the situation, how were we able to fund Cocoa House, University of Ife? Well, it was through agriculture. During the Nigerian Civil War, we did not borrow kobo from anywhere. Now that there is no war and other people are hungry and we are borrowing for children yet unborn.
John Isemede, thank you so much for your time. Quite a whole lot of enlightenment that we've got from you. Thank you so much for your insight and all that. We appreciate making it on the show tonight. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Now we have another handshake.